Salam Mufti, how can the youth better balance Duniawi and Akhirah priorities?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you for that. And I think we tried to address this quite broadly earlier. It's something that I've always worked on initially, also struggled with. As many of you know, I went to national school and then I went to the madrasa. People often separate these as religious. This as, one is Duniawi, one is Ukhrawi, belajar Duniawi or Ukhrawi, right? Yeah. Now, the first thing I think is important is to remind ourselves that as a Muslim, that demarcation doesn't exist. As a Muslim, right? That demarcation doesn't exist. Why? Because whatever we do in this world are not exempt from God's awareness, from God's consciousness of what we do, and from God's reward and punishment. So whatever we do is all interlinked with the hereafter, with the Akhirah. But what we do is the dunya is a place in which we have a life to take care of that life in ways that conform to the teachings and the principles and values that Allah has taught us. And in doing that, we are converting everything that we do in life to the benefit of Akhirah. That's first. B, it will bring us greater purpose and greater effect and outcome. Why? Because whatever we do, and we believe this, if it's in the guidance according to the values that Allah has taught us in the Quran and the Prophet ﷺ has taught us, they often end up with better results. Understood in the right way, it brings us better results. Brings us a better balance between the demands of this world and also the teachings of our faith. It brings us better balance in that regard. So whatever we do are strongly interrelated with our Akhirah, with what happens with us in the Akhirah. They're not separate. I say this because many of you may think, if you are in universities, non-Islamic, you're not doing Islamic studies, okay? So you're doing engineering or science or AI or medicine or whatever else you're doing. You think this is Duniawi. You think of it as Duniawi, and therefore I lose out on people who go to Al-Azhar or go to Islamic studies or whatnot. And that is already a fallacy. That is wrong. It's not what you study, but it's what's the purpose of you studying. If you study because you want to be a good professional, where you can have a good family, you can have a good, good job, and you can provide for your family, at the same time you can contribute. Every one of these intentions are aligned to what Allah wants for us. So maybe the substance of what you're doing is not immediately recognizable as religious or spiritual, but the essence of it is. So if you go out and have a business, be a very good businessman, honest, trustworthy businessman, you are practicing the teaching of Islam. You don't cheat. Man ghashana falaysa minna. Whoever cheats us is not one of us. You don't cheat in your business, in trade. Every minute of your business is actually, Imam Abu Hanifa was a businessman too. Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal was a businessman and tradesman too. They used their business to fund their studies, to for the other purposes and incomes and intent. And you could, as a businessman, provide scholarships and help people, all sorts of things. So that dichotomy doesn't exist in actual fact in Islam. So what we need to do then is to look at the spiritual side of what we're doing, regardless of what the outward manifestation is. And without tadabbur, if you don't really understand the inner meanings of the Quran, you will tend to focus on the physical outward manifestation. I have to salat, I put on the songko and have a beard and go to the masjid salat. That's not wrong, right? Because that's part of salat. But with tadabbur, you begin to understand, why am I doing this? What is the outcome that I want to get? How does it change me in my relationship with Allah? And likewise, with tadabbur, you understand that every good thing you do in what is understood generally as a dunyawi thing, like dealing with the world, if you are an environmentalist, you take care of trees, in Allah's measure and sight, these are equally important spiritual actions. They are not dunyawi, right? So that is the beauty of our faith, that it is all encompassing. So being kind to people, even, for example, you drive your car, if you're driving, or take public transport. You don't hurt people. The Prophet ﷺ, once told the companions, do not sit on the pavements, do not gather on the pavements, because you're blocking people. That's not good. So they say, Ya Rasulullah, but we have to, because we were dealing with something, or they had to gather or whatever. Prophet said, if you really cannot not gather on the pavement, but give the pavement its right, the right of the pavement. And the Prophet ﷺ explained the 5 rights of the pavement. When people pass by, say salam to them, the Muslims, right? Say salam to them. Do not harm other people. Do not make loud noises. Now, you would think that, taking care of the streets and, being nice and arranging your slippers outside the mosque and not parking your vehicles on Jum'ah indiscriminately. Ini semua perkara dunia, let them sort it out. Yang penting I go to the mosque and do my Jum'ah. This is precisely the Duniawi Ukhrawi problem that actually doesn't exist in Islam. How you park your car and whether you block other people is part of your religious duty. How you put your shoes and not harm other people. When you use the public toilets, in the masjid even especially, you make sure it's clean or you don't care about its cleanliness. That's part of your religious duty. When you enter the masjid, the religion doesn't start when you say Allahu Akbar. It doesn't start there. It starts at the moment, and of course from morning until night, but it starts when you enter, where you place your slippers, when you say a salam to people, when you don't waste water, when you take the wudu, even if the mosque is not your home, you don't pay for the bill, right? When you clean, for example, when you pray and you see some people, maybe, accidentally, whatever, leave a tissue paper, you clean it up for them, or clean up the prayer space. When you put back the mushaf, which is messy, these are all our religion. There is no such thing as this is Dunyawi, this is Ukhrawi. Yeah? We create these artificial categories in our minds, and we should remove them. Right? So I hope you can see that, and therefore you remove those categories. Whatever you do with an innamal a'malu binniyat, with the right intention, if you follow the values and principles of Islam, automatically it becomes religious. Automatically it becomes spiritual. Yeah? And when you, and this is very important, when you live an action that is sinful, if you had done it otherwise. So for example, you may, in your work or your school or whatever else, right? You may be tempted by whatever you see, but you say, no, I should not, because I know this is not Islamic, or I know that this is wrong. So you lower your gaze, or you don't watch, or whatever. That avoidance of sin, which maybe nobody else knows about it except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and yourself, that is a huge act of worship. And that often happens not in the religious spaces, it happens outside religious spaces, in your schools, at your work, everywhere else. So you see, there is no that dichotomy between religious, and it's about the way that you look at life, it's about the way you look at all aspects of your life, and you have the opportunities to become, or to convert all these experiences as profoundly spiritual and religious experiences. Yeah, wallahu a'lam.
Thank you so much, Mufti. Okay, next question will be